Did you recently win a very large lotto? Or maybe, just maybe, you've made millions of dollars on the stock market on a certain game retailer. And you're thinking to yourself, how can I waste all this money I just made? How can I be stupid? Have I got just the thing for you when it comes to an aquarium? Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today many of you have been waiting for this particular review, and we are going to talk about this, the SunSun HW-5000. It's a terrible name. I've got a new name for it. The bucket of junk. This has long been lauded as the FX6 Killer by certain people online. I don't want to throw some shots, because maybe, just maybe, no matter what I've done, mine is faulty. But the amount of work and time I have put into this thing to see it be basically worth not so much as a dime tells me that there is no way this can beat the FX6. So for those of you who want the very short version of this review, is the SunSun bucket of junk, the FX6 Killer? Not even close. This thing could not touch the FX6 if it wanted to. Now, for those of you who want the full details, let's start pulling this stupid thing apart and compare it to an actual FX6, the real king. Okay, so first off, I want to look at this lid structure. You see how it's just got this dumb ring around it. If you look at the FX6, it has a number of bolts, and some people might be like, "What, it takes so much time to undo that," and blah, blah, blah. This is so simple. It's just click, clack. Ah, look, cheap plastic. Oh, it's wonderful. Cheap, crappy Chinese plastic. Oh, it's so easy, Bentley. Yeah, I'm not really going to edit this one. This is basically going to come off like completely unhinged. So, if you've ever wondered if I will go no holds barred on an item ever in the aquarium hobby, let's dive into my rage and fury together. So we got this stupid lid. It's white, it's generic, it has no labels, no nothing. It's almost like they're not proud of this thing. Probably because they aren't. It's not even on SunSun's website anymore. Or at least when I did a search, I couldn't find one. It's not available on Amazon. It's as if they realized, this thing sucks, we better stop selling it, because people keep complaining and we keep losing money. And unfortunately, I gave this thing over a year of work, which means I can't get a refund on it. I feel like I got bit a little bit there, but let's talk more. The canister's empty right now, and I'm just gonna, it's a little mucky, you can tell from me running it, but see, it's a bucket with tubes. Seems simple, but it's got this nice kind of, let's pull this out. This big thick boy water seal here, right? Look at that. That's nice. The FX6 has one too, except it's built into the top lid instead of into the bottom. And there's a good reason for that. The SunSun, in the way that it's designed in its lid structure, when it loses power, I have experienced about 1 in every 3 to 4 times. It's basically run out to be 2 in 7 times that I've tried it, will leak. If it loses power, it leaks. And in order to stop that leak, you have to completely remove the top and reseal it. And this is with that stupid locking ring locking correctly, indicating that this is all pressed together right and sealed. It's watertight until it loses power, when it's no longer watertight. Shall we go on before we get to the trays? Because, I mean, this is the stupidest engineering thing I think I've ever seen when you're trying to compete against something that is brilliant. If you want to attack one of the best filters on the market, don't do it with a cheap hunk of junk. My goodness, SunSun. So let's talk about this thing. Down here, the drain plug. Simple. It's got a gate valve. I want you to see this. So it's supposed to have a lock. I don't know if you'll be able to see this correctly, but this doesn't screw on. It's a little friction fit. It just snaps into place. It's got two things. So if I do it correctly, and I'll feel it snap in place. Can you tell that I'm not struggling to pull this off? Lock it in. Pull off. This is your drain plug. I removed it once. And it's never gone back on with a solid friction since. And I have been immensely paranoid that the water flow will just blow this stupid thing off. Because it has. So there's that. If you want to get to the UV filter that's installed, rather the UV sterilizer, it's 9 watts. It can't do a damn thing on a filter with the flow of this thing. Or you want to get to the pump housing, you have to remove this plate. It has 4 screws, they're small, and then you can finally get into the pump housing. And the reason why I complain about this is my pump seized up. So I thought maybe something got stuck in it. I heard a little bit of whirring noise. I literally was going to power it off, and it just stopped. I mean, literally, I heard the noise for about 5 seconds. I turned it off with its little pause on its controller. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I turned it back on just to see if maybe there's not enough water flow or something, let some water drain down for a few minutes, let the gravity suction happen. Heard the noise again, went to turn it off by just unplugging it entirely, and it's seized. So I went to remove it and look at the pump to make sure something didn't get in it somehow, a piece of media, whatever. There was nothing in it. It's seized from itself. Unlimited work in the grand scheme of things. This has not seen any real abuse. It has been cleaned very thoroughly. I tried several different configurations of media. We're going to talk about that in a minute as we look at the trays. Let me talk about the way that the media is housed in this. So when you buy this fantastic filter, your trays are designed like this. And you guys see some gunk on them? And, I don't care. It's because I didn't fully thoroughly clean this. I want you to see that it's been used if you can. Do you see how you got grates, kind of like the FX6, but you got the tubes on the inside? I want to compare this to an FX6 tray real fast. Here's an FX6 tray, a little more grody gray. Notice the divots on the outside here. And a smaller media tray in the middle with another one on the outside. So, for those who are unfamiliar, this comes with 4 total sponges. And let me show you. You get this coarse blue one. And you can see it's a little grody. It's seen some work. It's not like I haven't let it do something. And then 3 of these. I loaded this filter with all 3 of these, which the SunSun company, parent company, Ming Trading says that you can do that, and the blue one, and some ceramic media. It lost flow within 10 hours. It could not handle my 75-gallon long rainbow tank, which is not that dirty. I went through it, I fully cleaned all the pads out. I was like, okay, the first time maybe it'll be a little rough on it. We'll clean all the pads. I'll even remove some of this finer mesh here to help increase flow. I went down to just one of these, the blue coarse pad, and some ceramic media. It lost flow again within 10 hours. Again. It could not, in the next morning, push water at any reasonable rate. That never happens with an FX6. And part of this is the design. So, because we have this, this tray as it is, water comes in through the top, goes through the 3 trays, which are a stacked tray, They have a little locking piece that holds them together, just like the FX6. It's a really simple design, so that you can pull all 3 trays out together in one piece. But it's just single flow. It goes, water comes up, down through the trays, goes down to the pump housing, and is pushed out through the exit tube back into your tank. This means that you have to make sure that all your media is in these initial trays. Now, why this is bad is that if it gets clogged in here, it's going to impede the flow, period. The FX6 has a little smarter design. So let's look at the FX6 tray and understand why it's smart. So with the FX6, the tubes are on the outside, right? You have these rings here where there's a coarse sponge. And then internally, you have a couple of slightly finer polishing sponges in the very top one, and then room for media and chemical filtration if you want carbon in the bottom 2 trays. So water comes up, down into the center, down to your pump, and out to the tank. So the initial water flow is going into the bottom, pumping up through the outer, very coarse sponge rings through all 3 of them, 3 coarse sponges to slowly filter particulates. Then it spills over into the center with your slightly finer, not super fine, mind you, and then it goes through your ceramic media. I have had this particular FX6 has been running for 4 years. I have an FX6 on my big rainbow tank right now. I have not serviced it in nearly a year and a half. And I know I need to, but you know what? It's still running. It doesn't care. I lost flow no matter how many ways I jiggered the configuration of this SunSun HW-5000 FX6 Killer for months. Literally for months, I messed and tinkered with this thing to try and get it right. And basically, unless I had almost nothing in it, and the tubes absolutely perfectly straight up and down, it would lose flow. Now, this genius thing is, I noticed it was getting a lot of air in the canister. That's its biggest problem. Sealed properly, I tried resealing it several times. I tried all sorts of stuff. The FX6 will turn itself off when it detects too much air inside the canister, and it does this at a certain cadence. It's like once every 12 hours. And it purges itself. You have to purge the HW-5000. It is not smart enough to realize that it needs to let air out of the canister, stop the pump. It doesn't have a thing that tells it flow is going wrong. Maybe there's too much air getting in somehow. Let's stop the pump and let water gravity feed in here and push air out of the can. When you go ultra cheap, you cannot possibly get a significant quality filter that is going to last you a long time. And I know that like this is just, it sounds like, just buy the expensive thing. I was led to the SunSun. No, it's just, this thing tries to target the FX6. It's a $200 filter. I got mine on sale through some crazy nonsense on Amazon where I only paid $125 for this thing. I would not pay that again. You could not pay me to run the SunSun filter. You couldn't. If I had to buy an FX6 at full retail versus get paid to use a SunSun, I will buy the FX6. No joke. I'll buy it. Because you know what? I know that I can have 2 different of the FX6 and abuse them, not service them for 6 months, a year, almost a year and a half in different varieties depending on the tank it's on. And it doesn't care. It keeps running. I have 3 FX6s. I only have 2 in use currently. Never a problem. Never a problem. The only time I thought I had a problem was when it was purging itself of air, and I was like, why did it stop? Why are all these bubbles coming out of it? And then it kicked itself back on, no problem. Because I didn't know that it would stop itself when I first bought it, when I first got back into this hobby almost 5 years ago. I bought my first one used. I bought it used. It had been in use for 2 years. Now it's at 4 years under me. I haven't serviced the same one. I haven't serviced that one for almost a year and a half. still running. This stupid SunSun lasted 10 hours. And then it needed me to pull it apart and monkey with it to fix it. Let's talk about that tray a little more. Seriously, this is the other thing I want to talk about. So you get these trays. If you want to build custom sponge that's really coarse to help your filtration, do you know how hard it is to properly cut for these tight spaces, or to fit filter media in a way that's balanced so that no matter where the water comes from, it's getting hit on stuff? It has these spaces that will inevitably allow water to bypass your media by a significant amount because it'll path of least resistance. It'll flow this way and go out. It'll find the areas where there's less media and just ignore portions of your media. For people who complain about the tidal hang-on back bypass, this is worse. Guaranteed. Yeah, it's going through your tray, but guess what? It's going to find all those stupid gaps near that water, and a good portion of it is going to flow and ignore these center trays. It's just going to ignore them. Even though it's top down, the water will find its path of least resistance, and it will go there. Some will go through the media. Yes, it will. But you know what? It's still a point of failure. It is still bad design, especially if you're not trying to buy specifically SunSun made things. You want to DIY some of your own stuff to go in here. Like maybe you want to buy coarse filter pad from Swiss Tropicals or Aquarium Co-op or Metalamat or whatever thing you want, and you're going to custom cut it to shape and fit. If you don't have like some really insane tools to do that, this is a nightmare. I took a coarse pad and I was just using a pair of scissors. I was trying to do this cleanly. It took me forever, and I had to cut all these like small bits to fit up in this portion to make a kind of circular pad that would fit a majority of this thing. And it still didn't fit the whole thing because there's all these little gaps and stupid things that I just could not get stuff into without jamming it in there. And that's not what I wanted to do. It's bad design. Having the tubes on the outside completely free of where the media is supposed to go is just smarter. Plain and simple, it is smarter design. Not to mention the fact that your tube just flies off. Your pump, you have to do so much work to get to your pump. Let's look at the FX6 canister. There's one of the few cuts that we're going to do just because I don't want you sit here staring at me monkeying stuff around. All right, here's my lidless FX6. You can see this. But what I want to note, if we go here, right? Notice that pump's on the outside. It's almost like it's easy to access. And yeah, there's a few screws to get to this, but there's the pump. Easy to get to. Your drain is all built in. It's only this little rubber gasket piece that comes off. And more importantly, it is a significantly smarter build. It's solid through here. These are not separate pieces. Not in the way that they're designed on the SunSun. This is not going to fly off on you. Also, this is a significantly heftier ball valve. Just much better quality overall. Also, another small complaint point, but it's worthy noting. This has nice rubberized handle grips all around the outside of it. You can see them. There's multiple. The SunSun? Nope. It's just bare plastic. It doesn't have a good grip point. So when you do need to move the canister and mess with it, take it outside, it doesn't have a nice comfortable grip built in. That's like $1 worth of parts, tops. Tops! Do I need to go on? I feel like I've seen videos like this, and I've had a lot of people like, oh, is it good? Is it good? It's so much cheaper than the FX6. You get what you pay for when it comes to the engineering of filtration. Cheap pieces of junk will fail. Yeah, that FX6 is $300-something. Typically, it's $300 retail. If you wait for sales, you can get them cheaper. Sometimes you get a coupon. It's going to save you some money, whatever. There is a reason that people who use big canister filters almost universally suggest the FX6 when it comes to just a powerful filter. Now, I know in the case of like aquascaping and stuff, there's some other options that are out there, but for a big, bulky filter, the FX6 is nearly impossible to beat. It is so reliable. It is so well designed. It's so much smarter. The only downside that I will say to the FX6 compared to the SunSun is this one thing. This is the one thing SunSun did right. This is the only thing SunSun has done right. The pump controller. Now this also controls your UV sterilizer, which is a laughable joke. It is a 9-watt UV sterilizer on something that does like 900 gallons per hour. For those of you who aren't aware, a UV sterilizer only can significantly sterilize, which means to actually give you the protection that you're assuming you get out of a UV sterilizer. Based on a certain amount of wattage, there's a maximum water flow it can handle. 9 watts, it caps out at like 75 gallons an hour. It's not much. It's very low. It's not what this thing can handle. So you're not getting proper sterilization. It might as well not be there. And more importantly, it's a second point of failure for leaking, which, while mine has never leaked, I have seen multiple reports online of people having leaks from the UV housing and people saying, check this, check this, check this, make sure it's in tight and right before you fire your filter up, before you fill it with water, because mine spilled water everywhere. It's another point of failure. SunSun loves including these like faux UV sterilizers in their filters, and they all suck, and almost every one of them I've seen is a point of leakage. Why? But this is smart. Let me explain why. It has controllable flow. If the only thing, Fluval, the only piece of advice I would give you, the next time you build the new FX6, the FX7, whatever it's going to be called, get yourself a proper DC controllable, like pond style pump. And I know you guys make these things, so get one in there and get a little control box. That way people can change their flow. The only downside to the FX6 is that you cannot control the flow. There's one flow, but you know what? That pump is built like a freight train. There are tons of people who use these pumps outside of the FX6. They'll buy the pump individually as a part because it's so reliable and it pushes a good amount of water. They're just tough as nails. If it was controllable like this, no one would beat the FX6. No one. Until you build your own sump, there is no way you would beat the FX6. The only positive I will give this stupid SunSun filter, this right here. Now, okay, I lied. There's one more positive. It comes with a spray bar attachment for its outflow. Fluval doesn't make one for its filter. It has those big chunky nozzles, which are kind of nice because they give a gentler flow, so you're not having ridiculous flow. This can cause a ludicrous amount of flow. For some people, that's great. But it's really targeted. So without the spray bar, it can be too much in a couple of spots as opposed to a spread out or more gentle, wide dispersion pattern. Probably why the spray bar is there, but it's a potential negative for some people. Maybe they don't want a big spray bar in their tank. I actually think it looks okay. Other than because it's two nozzles, you can have this L-shaped one. So unless you have it like nicely set in your corner and your tank allows that, you're going to have a weird spray bar pointing somewhere or a nozzle and it's just going to like jam a ton of water and the spray bar will be gentle. Potential downside. The other downside, when you turn this thing on and you're running it, it does not have a good indication of how many gallons per hour it's pushing. It just has like a power rating, and there's only a few. There's not a lot. It's not like it has a lot of range, but it would be so much better if you could like literally look at this and it just told you you're running at 400 gallons per hour. You're running at 600 gallons per hour. You're running at 900 gallons per hour. That's max. Fluval, I would trust to design that. Lots of the good DC pumps that are out there that people use in sumps do that. I could never, ever suggest this piece of hardware to anyone. And I know there are people who are going to say, well, this person uses it, this person loves it, he hasn't had problems, you probably got a faulty one. I've never had a faulty FX6. I've never heard of a faulty FX6. So I'm inviting the comments to tell me their horror stories. Come on. Tell me down in the comments. Do you have an FX6? Have you had a horror story with one? I've never heard of them. Other than, like, you know, one died because it was horribly abused, or something, power outage happened and XYZ, whatever it might be, right? Things that could happen to any filter, but I've never heard of, like, I got my FX6 and it leaked right away, or I got my FX6 and the pump lasted 10 hours before it fried itself, right? I can't say that I've ever heard anything like that with an FX6. The SunSun, I've experienced it left and right. And I've pulled this thing apart, I've monkeyed with it, I've messed with it, I've played with the seals, I've done everything I can think of outside of basically completely tear it apart, try to resolder everything, redo the actual sealing with something different in order to fix it. FX6 Killer? Nope, not even close. This thing doesn't even kill an Aqua Clear 110. I'm sorry, man. I would rather have an Eheim, and like, I'm talking the old Eheims that were built in like the 80s that you can still find running, or an FX6, an FX4, any day of the week over this thing. I don't care that they cost more. I know that they work and they're reliable. And that matters more to me than wasting my money on this thing because it would save me $100 to find it to die within 6 months, a year. When I know that I can get 4 years on an FX6 that I bought used that had been running for 2 years and not service it for a year, and it just keeps running. It doesn't care. It is like a unflinching juggernaut, and this thing is paper mache. It is just waiting to fall apart and be destroyed. That, my friends, is my SunSun HW-5000 review, or as I like to call it, the SunSun bucket of junk. What I would love to know, have any of you tried this filter? Have you had better luck than me? Have you had the same luck, worse luck? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation back and forth with you. I will admit, this is a singular filter. There is room for proper scientific work, but I've done everything I can think of as a human being who is not like a handyman who would just build a sump at this point in order to get this thing to work, and nothing has made it work. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed this glimpse into me lambasting something because I'm so frustrated with it, give it a thumbs up. It helps with the YouTube algorithms. If you got somebody who's thinking about trying to buy one of these, or like, I'm just waiting for it to come back in stock, share this video. Let them see, because I want people to know, don't touch this thing. Just save a little extra money, buy something different, or go with a good hang-on back option, build a sump, whatever it may be. Don't touch this thing. It is garbage. For those of you who think I'm like some Fluval shill, or maybe Fluval's paying me, nope. I've bought every single FX6. I bought every Fluval filter I own. I bought this SunSun out of my own pocket, other than I found a sweet discount where I could have had one shipped to my house every month. No. These are all paid out of pocket. I've paid for all these. And I just can't, in good conscience, ever suggest them to anyone. But if for some reason that's not enough for you, you can hit the thumbs down twice. I'll send you my SunSun. You can have it. If you're new to this channel, if this is the first time you've seen a product review, not all of them are like this. Actually, most of the time, I'm generally pretty impressed with a lot of things I mess with, but that's because I tend to go seeking the better stuff. However, every once in a while, we get a true diamond in the rough. Really, really, really rough. And no actual diamond whatsoever. More like a piece of coal in the rough. Oh. But anyway, if you enjoy stuff like this, hit that subscribe button. Maybe ring that little notification bell. I do a live stream every Tuesday, video every Saturday. Lots of stuff to learn, product reviews, lessons, plants, rainbow fish, these awesome guppies behind me. We do a lot. We do a lot. Come check us out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't buy this hunk of junk. And stay awesome.